everybody. I'm here today with Erica Blystone. Hey, Erica. Thanks for coming.
Hey, Shaunis. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to have this conversation with you because so often when my clients come in, they want to talk about prenuptial agreements, but they haven't had some big conversations. Yeah. So why don't we talk about a little bit about your practice and who you are, and then we'll get into sort of the meat of everything.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Tell us about you.
I will. Erica Blystone. I've been in practice for over 20 years. I own Wake Adult Counseling in Raleigh, North Carolina. I see people for individual work and couples counseling and divorce services, premarital counseling, discernment counseling. So a lot of things around keeping relationships intact and helping people separate amicably.
Yeah, I mean, and we've had so many clients in common over the years. I've just found you to be just this really helpful resource of educating and sharing information. So I'm really excited to have you talk today and help us to understand what are some things that people should be talking about before they get married, and like how can they have those conversations?
Yeah, it's a great point, and premarital counseling can be really helpful. But even if you don't go to premarital counseling, you want to talk to your partner about really important kind of foundational issues. So I've provided a PDF that Shaunis will have on our Peaceful Law website. So you can print it out, bring it up with your partner, and start having these important conversations before getting hitched.
I mean, that's so generous, Erica. Like, to be able to provide for people who are, like, not even clients of ours, but just people out there who are thinking about getting married. What are some things that we should be talking about and having these important conversations? I'm so grateful that it matters so much to you that you're willing to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I totally understand why people don't want to go to premarital counseling, or it doesn't even like come across the radar.
Not on the radar. Yeah,
because you're so happy that you're getting married. Why would you need to go see a therapist? It makes total sense. Plus, very often when you're getting married, you're trying to save time and money.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. I will say that like having these conversations, super important.
Yeah. And I think, so if somebody's thinking about going to premarital counseling, like, why would you go?
Right. I would say you don't know what you don't know. People make a lot of assumptions in life and about their partner to be, and you might not even know some stuff about yourself. Really, again, foundational stuff, values, morals, life goals. Like, you may assume you guys aren't going to have kids one day. Your partner may not be assuming that.
That's what everybody does. And so you just think that that's just the thing that's going to happen. That's what you think.
Yeah. And a lot of it has to do with like how you were raised and what's normal, or what you've always wanted in life, and just kind of what you expect. And
because you love this person so much, like, of course they think the same way as you, is like what we sometimes get stuck in, I feel like.
Yeah, it is easy to make assumptions. So asking your partner having these important discussions can help avoid making assumptions that later on you really wish you'd talked about.
Because then you're like, no, but we were always going to have kids. And you're like, no, we actually never had the conversation. I always thought we weren't, and you always thought we were.
Yeah, and that's a really concrete one. Most people, I think, talk about, whether or not they're going to have kids and how many. And but other things are less concrete and obvious, like how do you like to save and spend? What amount of money do you like to put away for a rainy day or for retirement? How do you like to spend money that you have to spend? So again, some things that you might assume that you know it. And the goal is not to know everything, because you can't. I mean, it's one of the very exciting things about knowing somebody a long time is you're never going to know everything. And nor is the goal to marry somebody that's going to be totally similar to you.
Right.
I mean, you're not marrying yourself, and that's a good thing. But the goal is to be able to anticipate, okay, so we're different in this way. This stuff might come up, and that's one of the things premarital counseling can do for you.
It's like that foundation of understanding how you're alike and how you're different. Yeah. And then, like, how do we address problems as they come up, or navigate situations. Yeah.
So let me elaborate a little bit on that. So the first thing that you talked about, like, was how we're different. So goals, life goals, values, morals,
like
spirituality.
The
well, the things that kind of guide your direction in life. So those are what I call like compass questions. Another category is kind of like around marriage. So like commitment, trust, expectations around sex. Just kind of things that you definitely want to know about the person you're planning on spending the rest of your life with. Maybe retirement.
Is that the parenting one? Does that fit in with that category?
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. Yeah. So parenting could be about like
the values, but
and also goals, and also kind of like these marriage questions. Another one is questions or discussions around living situations. So like, what do you want your house to be like? Do you want to live in a cul-de-sac or a city? Do you want to move every few years? Just kind of like, what's your life vision?
They're like, I want to renovate the house every year. I want a new kitchen. I guess it goes with the finances too a little bit though with that one, right? But it's that's sort of like some how we live. And you might just think that everybody does it that way, right? Like maybe you grew up and your family got a new house every 3 years. You sort of like upgraded and you just changed it up, and other people, like their parents still live in the house that they were born in.
Right.
I mean, and you just don't even think about that's how you're living your life. It's based on those things.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah, a lot of how we make decisions about living as an adult come from how we saw our parents, living as adults. When my husband and I got married, he had, his next car was a car with leather seats and automatic windows. And I was like, what? I'm always going to be rolling down my windows and sitting on cloth. It never occurred to me to like live in a way that I considered so luxurious. And he was like, oh, what are you talking about? We're not having cloth. Which nothing's wrong with cloth, just like we're at a different place of expectation about like leveling up with our next car, Yeah. So you have to, gets to the last thing that you talked about, which is like the how. Like you need to have conversations about process. How do you approach conflict? Is one person avoidant of conflict and one person, when they get into conflict, is passionate? Or are you kind of like of a compromising nature in conflict? How do you have conversations about what's happening this week or how to handle the budget? So a lot of how questions.
Tell them that thing that we talked about at lunch the other day, about nagging, because I thought that was so helpful.
Yeah.
I just it really puts it into perspective, I feel like.
Yeah. So, I'll often see couples for couples counseling after they've been married decades. And one of the very common dynamics that they'll bring up is, my partner nags me all the time and I hate it. And the other person will say, my partner says nothing and then blows up all of a sudden out of the blue. It's not fair. And so if you know ahead of time what this dynamic is about, then when it starts, you can see your partner in a very different light with it. So what I will tell people in premarital counseling or couples counseling is the person who's nagging is trying to avoid conflict by saying, hey, don't forget to take out the garbage. Don't forget the garbage. Hey, remember the garbage tomorrow.
Like, I don't want us to have to fight about this when the garbage doesn't get taken out.
I don't want a problem later. I'm helping you. Remember it. And the other person feels nagged, understandably. And the other person often has this, like, shrug it off. They forgot the garbage. They forgot to do the dishes. Shrug it off. No big deal. And then they blow up because it's been 30 times that you haven't done the dishes. And this other person is like, I thought it was fine because you never said anything about it.
The other person didn't realize that 29 times not doing the dishes when they were asked was the threshold.
Yeah.
And then there was going to be a problem at number 30.
Yeah. So when you enter into that dynamic, if your partner starts to nag you a little, you can be like, this is them trying to avoid conflict with us. That's very nice. That's very thoughtful. They want peace and quiet, or they want peace.
Yeah. So it's like assuming that positive intent of the nagging. And then, but then like maybe then how do you have that conversation? Like, hey, actually, I do have a plan for how I'm going to remember that. Like I've got a reminder set on my phone. Thank you so much for reminding me, but I've got that handled.
Yes, and in order to have that conversation about here's what I'm going to do, here's how we're going to handle that, you have to know my partner's coming at this from a place of wanting to not have major conflict later.
Right.
And when you blow up about it, knowing I brushed it off for so many times because I didn't want to have conflict. Once you understand your partner and you are on the same page with not wanting to fight, that's awesome. That's a great starting point. Yeah. But that people often have different ways of achieving it.
Well, and it probably goes back to like what they saw growing up or what they want to avoid that they saw growing up, you know, that we develop those different like ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So what's the structure like? So somebody's coming into marriage counseling. I know that can be really intimidating.
Premarital?
Premarital. Yes. Sorry.
Premarital,
Yes.
yep.
Premarital counseling. What's that like?
Yeah. So I think all therapists do it differently. This is my structure. I see them both for the intake, and when we talk about basic things, what their life looks like, what they do for work, if they have any health issues, stuff like that. We finish that usually in one session, and then I have each partner come in for an individual session for a couple of reasons. One is safety. If there's any kind of abuse going on, they're not safe to say it in this joint session.
Right.
But usually it's not anything intense like that. It's just easier to speak frankly with your therapist when your partner's not there. You edit less. You don't worry about sounding mean or hurting their feelings or making them angry. I do always tell clients that my job is not to hold or expose big secrets. So if a client tells me a big secret in an individual session, a secret that affects the marriage, my goal is to help them get it out on the table.
And so you like help them to figure out how to say it themselves. You're not going to say it for them.
Right.
But you're also not going to try to move forward in this like counseling with something so big and heavy being held in.
Well, because that will alienate the other person.
Right, it's not fair.
Yeah, that's not fair.
Yeah.
So then we have those individual sessions, and after that we start the work. All the sessions after that are joint, and we talk about the kind of the categories of not exactly questions. Like it's not just the therapist hammering questions at you.
Yeah.
It's more like inviting discussion about these foundational things that they might not have thought about before, or maybe started to talk about and then turn left because it was kind of scary or uncomfortable, and helping them have these conversations, which are sometimes easy and joyful, and you realize you're on the same page about whatever, having kids, and sometimes can be pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, I bet that could be tricky if you're just finding out you've already got a wedding date set and you're just finding out some differences. But I mean, I think that it must feel really reassuring to be able to have that conversation in a therapist's office where you can work through it, and it's not a surprise later.
Right. And again, the goal isn't to, oh no, we're not exactly the same, this isn't going to work. I mean, a huge part of marriage is being able to have open dialogue and talk about problems and differences and figure out how to have a life together, even though people are not on the same notch about this value or about this way you want to live.
Yeah, like a really clear-cut sort of, like, it sounds silly, but it can actually be a really big deal, is my husband and I are real different when it comes to our expectations on tidiness around the house. And so I am like a more messy person by nature. And he is, everything has a place, and he makes sure that everything is in the place. So we've had lots of conversations to live peacefully together with my difference in cleanliness. We were on the same page about the dishes need to be done at night, all of that stuff. But when it comes to like my clothes pile, like we've worked together so that I'm allowed to have a little bit more chaos in my clothing arrangements.
Safe space.
And so that's the closet. So I've got we found like a house that had this good space for me to keep my mess contained.
Really big closet.
It is a really big closet. But I respect his need for having the house to be clean, and so I really make an effort to make sure that I keep my mess where it is. And he does a really good job of not like going in and giving me a hard time or making me feel bad about myself for the way that I keep my closet. That's my space.
Yeah, you're bringing up a great some content that we talk about in premarital counseling always, which is perpetual problems. So this is a concept that doctors John and Julie Gottman came up with after their 40 years of studying couples. And they say they have found that 69% of all couples' problems are perpetual. So
like who they are.
It's just who they are. Yeah. So a resolvable problem would be like, oh shoot, no one fed the dog last night. We can't let that happen again. And you put a schedule on the fridge and the problem is solved. Perpetual problems are differences in personality, values, and lifestyle. So an example of personality differences, like an introvert and an extrovert are going to have like a lot of little squabbles about a lot of different things having to do with like socializing. Values, an example would be lots of squabbles about how spending versus saving.
Oh yeah, I could see that for sure.
And lifestyle is like a cluttery person and a clean person. Yeah. So lots of squabbles.
Neat,
and
not clean. We're both clean.
We're both, sorry, yes. A disgusting, grimy person.
Gross.
And so obviously all the same skills you would use for solvable problems or resolvable problems, you use for perpetual problems, like let's compromise. Let's come up with a schedule on who cleans this when. Yep. But it's also about a lot of other things that are much, again, more foundational, like acceptance, open dialogue. You can't use many of the other skills if you don't have open dialogue about something,
that makes
right?
sense.
If you're not communicating, a lot of things aren't going to be able to be worked on.
I'm thinking about that introvert extrovert one, and that's one that I could see. Like you might like have all of these like little conflicts and not realize that it's related to the same thing. It's like a root cause in a lot of ways, right? Yeah. That it's really about that you guys are just have different personalities. And so
it's not that one is good or bad. Yeah. It's just they're different. And I mean, anyone who has children understands that both parents being different is good. It can add a lot of balance.
Yeah, because my husband will go on the water slides 1,000 times with the kids.
And you will.
And I will
be taking the pictures.
I will be taking the pictures. I am your biggest cheerleader, but that's not my job. Yeah. I could see that. No, it's like, but being able to appreciate those differences and understand that it's not like that the person doesn't want to spend time with you and go out to the party or whatever. It's just that they need that time at home to recharge.
Yeah, because it's not all about fixing things. Like, well, obviously you have to come to the party or you have to stay on the couch and watch TV with me. It's about understanding my partner's like this, and I accept them. Look how big my hand is. It's so close. And I accept them, and we're different in this way, and that's not a bad thing.
Right. Yeah. I think that's really good. And then like figuring out, okay, well, how do we navigate from there? Like you still want to go out, I still want to stay in.
Yep. So again, premarital counseling isn't to like figure out, okay, you're kind of an introvert. How are you going to do this from here on out?
We must go out 3 times a week. And 2 nights we must sit on the couch and hold hands.
Sign the contract in Peaceful Law's office.
That's right.
No, it's about understanding, okay, we're different, and that's not a bad thing, and we can handle this.
Yeah, prenups don't have those things in there. Just so you know, I'm not going to sit on the couch 2 nights Saturday. A week. That's right. We must sit on the couch. Yeah. No, but it's about that foundation, right, of like learning what those differences are and how we're going to navigate them, when and how we're going to have those communications.
Right, and premarital counseling helps you understand your partner for some things that you may have assumed incorrectly, but also understand yourself. I've had a lot of people kind of come to like have kind of aha moments in the office about like their, why they're so tense about money.
Yeah,
because sometimes you just accept who you are and how you are, but understanding why you're that way can be very helpful, and it can be really helpful to your partner.
Well, right, and I think that if things that do require compromise, right, it doesn't always mean that you meet in the middle. It might mean that you start to understand more about like your own money issues, and maybe you realize that you and your partner aren't so far apart once you work through what's holding you back.
Yes. Yep. After being married to my husband for being with him for like 20 years, what I've noticed is when sometimes it seems like to me we're very far apart on some continuum. When we talk about it, we realize we're not on the same notch. That was obvious from the beginning, but we're not as far apart as it felt when it felt kind of scary. And so open dialogue, it's just so critical. Yeah, like you just knowing that these things are going to come up and you can talk about them and you don't have to be scared when there's a difference or even a conflict. That's really important.
Oh, yeah, and that goes back to something I don't think we've talked about here, but something you and I were talking about is like that assuming positive intent piece, right? That if you don't dig in your position as much, if you're willing to like assume positive intent that the other person isn't just trying to like make it hard for you. Yeah,
it can feel like that even if you've been married decades and you love the person.
Like when I accidentally leave my socks on the floor in the bathroom.
That's right.
I'm not just messing with you, Chris. Don't worry.
Yes, being on the same team. It can be a hard thing to remember when you're stressed or anxious or angry. But when you remember that this person's my teammate, even if they're in a bad mood or I'm not in a great place, we're on the same team, it is easier to assume positive intent. But getting back to premarital counseling, no, that's okay,
because on a road.
Getting back to premarital counseling, it's not that like, okay, remember you're on the same team. Okay, you're good to go. Have a nice life together. It's just about like bringing these things up, and maybe people take notes, and maybe they remember them later when they need them. But knowing that you can tackle upcoming conflicts, and that there will be a lot, because 69% of all people's problems, no matter how happy or unhappy they are in the couple, are perpetual problems.
That makes sense, right? It's like the recurring root cause.
Right.
Yeah.
Personality, values, and lifestyle. So
Makes sense.
A lot of
you are. I mean,
that's right. A lot of the questions on that PDF you have on your website you'll notice there are perpetual differences, personality conflict. Personality, values, and lifestyle.
Yeah. And so then, like, it's starting those conversations and like getting to know each other better and getting to know yourself better. Like you said, I mean, that's kind of a huge one. I feel like maybe you haven't thought about it yourself because it hasn't come up yet.
Yeah, another great resource that you can just like note as a bullet point on your website is John and
the
Julie
Gottmans.
Gottman.
Oh my gosh!
Wait, no, not just them, but this free app they have called Card Decks, and it's just different, stacks of cards that has prompting questions.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's so
good. I didn't even know about this.
And if patent pending, my suggestion on how to use that is you ask why at least 5 times or until you get to an answer you didn't know. So they have some like kind of simple questions like, what's your favorite vegetable? Okay. So your partner says artichoke. You already knew that. But you say why.
Whose favorite vegetable is an artichoke?
Mine and my son's. Thank you very much.
There you go. It's like my 3rd favorite. But...
Because if you ask me why.
Why? I need to know.
A vehicle for butter. And then you say, well, why do you love butter so much? And I would tell you the story about how I used to steal sticks of butter when I was a kid. I just love butter so much, blah, blah, blah. You learn stuff about me.
And then I would share, I used to make butter sandwiches when I was a kid on white bread and just eat it.
It's amazing. I know what we're going to do for lunch after this.
That's right. Butter sandwiches and artichoke.
But so it has those simple questions like what's your favorite vegetable, but also like, where do you picture yourself in 5 years, and who's your best friend in 5th grade and what happened? It's like bigger things. So
I love that. I did not know they had an app.
I know, and it's free. How nice is that?
I mean, and that works for like the easily digestible like conversations. I feel
too, you just do 1 or 2 a night. It's fun. It can be really fun.
I love that. Yeah, I was telling you, like, we have like a different card deck that we use, and like with the kids, it's a more of a kid focused one, but like it's so cool to be able to have those conversations with kids and get in. Yeah.
One thing the Gottmans also give in their free app is salsa questions, mild, medium, and high.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
That's fun. I like that.
It is good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I learned something new. That's so cool. I always get, every time I talk to you, I feel like I come away with a nugget and I've got something that I get to go home and like research and put in there.
Same. You want one last nugget?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Give me
It's a nugget for everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
If I had to do premarital counseling in 30 seconds, it would be curiosity. Just get this rote sentence down. I'm so curious. How come? Blah, blah, blah. And the other person's work is to hear that as a sincerely curious question and not answer defensively.
So it doesn't work if you say, I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm so curious. How come you didn't take out the garbage?
Right.
No, I'm so curious. How come you didn't take out the garbage? oh my gosh, I totally just forgot. Or, ugh, I hate that job. I want to switch jobs. Oh, okay, well, let's talk about that, right? Like, if you believe that your partner is truly on your team and is sincerely curious about this thing and you can answer non-defensively, I would be out of a job. I'm not kidding.
Amazing.
I'm not kidding. Yeah. Curiosity, name of the game.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you've given us like how to get our own like premarital counseling. I'm so curious. I'm so curious. And then we've got the PDF, which is like questions that you can have to have these conversations. You've given us the app, and so now we know what to do, and we've got some tools to learn more about each other. I mean, this is so valuable, Erica. Thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it, and I hope that everybody who's considering marriage just like takes a look at it. You know, it doesn't mean you've got to do all the things. It doesn't mean you've got to do it all at once. But just come back to it. And I'm really looking forward to, or if you're just married and you haven't really had a chance to dig in yet, like maybe you're like, oh no, it's too late for me. My marriage. No, your marriage is great. Your marriage is gonna be awesome.
You got to work on it.
Yeah, you just got to start like having those difficult conversations. Yeah. And so the takeaways that I got from you are the approach with curiosity. When something happens, I'm so curious. It did it!
Oh, does it do this one? Oh, it's supposed to be celebration.
Oh, it doesn't celebrate.
Fireworks in the back.
Man, but we got a thumbs up. I don't know if y'all saw that, but we got to see the thumbs up. Okay. Approach with curiosity.
It's curiosity.
Yeah, so we're going to approach with curiosity whenever we, like, not necessarily see a conflict brewing, but just, like, anytime, right? Like, I'm so curious.
Yeah, exactly. It helps with the conflict for sure, and then it also is just good for other times.
Well, and so, not to like take us too much longer, but it's something that I was saying, like with my kids, I like if I can approach my kids with curiosity, I find it really helpful, and if I can teach them to do that with their own friends and not just like make all these assumptions, because we tend to assume so much about why things happen, right? So when you approach with curiosity, you keep that from happening.
Because our assumptions are based on our own personality and values and ways that we think life should go, and the world should work.
Come from our stuff, right? And who we are, and then that other person is like a whole other person,
right? So
with
you
a whole other.
That's right. So you got to know about yourself, and you got to know about your partner.
Yeah. Okay. So we're approaching with curiosity. We're having these conversations with that you've provided. We're assuming positive intent, right? We talked about that a little bit,
So this is how you can avoid premarital counseling and couples counseling and divorce consulting.
And put us out of a job.
And maybe even working with her.
Yeah. But how amazing is that, though? I mean, it's just people, you do need counselors. You do need attorneys to help you to navigate these conversations. But everybody can have the conversations. Yeah. Everybody can incorporate this into your own life. And we just want to make it better. I mean, like I say that sincerely, and I really want to help people to be able to have the tools that they need to have just a peaceful life and to be able to move forward in a way that is best for their family.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say that we want to help people, and we don't, if they don't come to us, that's okay. We just,
there's business enough.
Do stuff to help your marriage be good. That's the point of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I'm really hopeful that Erica will come back to see us again and talk to us about some other stuff.
Hopeful to be invited.
Well, thank you. And everybody, please have a great day. We'll have some resources up that are available for you. If you're finding this on social, it'll be in the comments, I'm sure, or wherever we put them. On the website, you'll be able to access them directly there as well. And check out Erica at Wake Adult Counseling. It is an amazing practice that my clients have just given me such excellent feedback on the work that you do. And I'm just so grateful to have you as a friend and as a colleague.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome. All right. Have a great day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.